we've been lucky enough to play some Remnant 2. We did actually play and finish the first game, Remnant from the Ashes. It was super fun, and it's one of those games that we now look back on fondly. It was quite a while ago though, so I'm pretty rusty on the specifics of the game, but I do remember some things and really enjoying it. So we've been very excited to play some Remnant 2, and while in this video we can't show off any new stuff or our gameplay just yet, we can talk about our first impressions. I think the first thing that's worth highlighting is the gameplay itself. It definitely feels very satisfying to kill things. It's fun overall, but also punishing, however does feel very balanced, which is a very rare thing in games. When it comes to fighting the enemies, if you get hit you will take a lot of damage, so your positioning really does matter, and you can accidentally roll off the map which will instantly kill you. But it does make everything feel extremely rewarding, and it isn't so punishing that you want to give up. It feels like you're really on an adventure. The enemies definitely die pretty fast, however, if you get hit, you also die pretty fast, so you're constantly balancing your ammo reserves along with dealing damage to those enemies before they can get to you. The game is chock full with a sense of discovery. You're constantly finding new things, be it chests, puzzles, or enemies to take on, and every corner feels exciting to go and explore and see what's there. You might just find a new accessory, or perhaps a new variety of enemy, or even a boss if you're unlucky. There are 3 different difficulty settings, and the game recommends you start on the first one, and I would actually compare these a little bit to world tiers in Diablo 4. This is because you're meant to work your way through the difficulties as your character gets stronger and has a build going for it. The game does recommend starting on the first difficulty, which I think feels about right. Then work your way through as you power up and get a build. It's worth noting there is friendly fire in the game, but there isn't friendly melee damage. You will have to pay attention to your positioning and where you're shooting because you can really hurt your allies if you're not careful. For example, the gunslinger's ability will automatically target enemies with a barrage of pistol shots, and if your ally happens to walk between you and that enemy, they're in for a world of pain. We haven't even got that far, but there are some crazy enemy types that we're absolutely loving to see. For example, there was a weeping angel style of enemy that would only move and attack when you were looking away from it. It was super creepy. Having tried a bit on both keyboard and mouse as well as controller, I would say the controller feels really good to play on. The aim assist is super strong, but this is good because you're fighting PvE enemies. So as a primary keyboard and mouse user, I was really enjoying my time on controller, which surprised me. Graphically speaking, it also looks incredible. It's a really immersive world and definitely a step up visually from the previous game. Interestingly, they actually reused some parts of the first game, at least in the early game sections that we've been playing. You will definitely recognize being in similar areas, but it doesn't distract from the new experience. And seeing these zones with improved graphics is also quite nice. And talking about graphics, we should also talk about performance. Some people out there have been saying they're having a lot of issues, but for the 3 of us that were playing it, we didn't have any issues or crashes, and we had a solid 60 FPS all the way through. We did have one bug where a player sort of disappeared, but that was it. Everything else was an incredibly smooth experience when it comes to the performance of the game, which we were incredibly surprised by. The classes are also pretty cool. There's a hunter that focuses on long-range DPS, a medic to heal your team up and act as a support, the challenger, which is kind of like a melee tank, the handler, which has a dog companion and buffs, and the gunslinger, which is kind of like a burst DPS. When we were playing, we have experience with the hunter, the challenger, and the gunslinger, and each one felt distinctly different and unique with their abilities and perks, and that was really cool to see. And with that comes the insane build potential that this game has. You've got more accessory slots now with 4 rings and 1 amulet. There's mutators and mods for your weapons, relics with a wide range of stat bonuses, armor pieces with resistances and armor stats, you get 2 weapons and a melee weapon, and there's even multi-classing potential. So when you think back to the first Remnant game with the crazy weapons and builds that you could make, this has only been expanded on in this second version, which we absolutely love to see and is only getting better the more that we're playing. The multi-class system is something that really intrigues me, as you can essentially combine 2 of any of the classes together. You won't get the full bonuses of the second class, but you will get a lot of their perks, which makes for some really interesting playstyles considering you can combine whatever you want. I also want to talk about the puzzles and secret areas because this is something that was really cool about the first game, and it's definitely delivering so far in the second one, at least from our first impressions. There's a variety of them and they are rewarding. Many of them are very thought-provoking and engaging. You will be spending some time in these areas trying to figure out how these puzzles work so you can overcome them. Of course, there's hints and things along the way in the form of pages and books in the area that you need to read and decipher, but they are so much fun to actually figure out and then finally get the reward at the end. It really makes you use your brain. We've already come across 2 of these sort of puzzles, one with a music box and another one with a bunch of symbols and rings that you had to twist twist and turn in the right way, corresponding to a door, with a cryptic set of messages on how to open that door. These kind of puzzles are fantastic, especially in group play where you're all working together to figure out how it works as a team. While you probably could play this solo, we've been playing through as a group of 3, and I think that's where the game really shines in group play. Going around as a group means you have more firepower to deal with the very punishing enemies, and with the right mix of classes you can kind of make a party comp that is very complementary. We have encountered a few bosses as well, and these were actually pretty cool. They weren't just face roll the enemy or just constantly DPS until you win. They required positioning, special mechanics and things like that, which we really enjoyed. We haven't got too far into the game just yet, so many of the areas that we've been in are a bit samey. However, we think this is because we just need to play more and get to those next zones. We've seen in the trailers and things like that there's some really cool looking areas, we just haven't found them ourselves. But after all, this is just our first impressions, so we will let you know as we play through more. Perhaps the best thing that the game has left me with so far is the feeling of wanting to play more. I love it when I get this feeling from games, and it definitely stems in this game from the good and engaging combat, the constant sense of discovery as you go through and find new and cool things, the build variety in how you level up and unlock new perks, get new gear pieces and see them in action, and just the setting itself. A lot of things look really nice, there's a lot of different and crazy enemy variety, and at the end of the day it's just fun. Of course, this might change as we get further and see what it's like towards the end of the game. But for first impressions, I'm feeling very positive about this one. I think at a fundamental level, if you enjoyed the last Remnant, then you are going to enjoy Remnant 2. It seems like it's building on top of everything that made the first game good. But again, we'll have to play more to truly find out. This is just first impressions. And if you did enjoy this, you can hook us up by hitting that like button down below, and subscribe because we'll have more Remnant content coming your way very soon. And the 2 videos on screen now, we think you'll really enjoy if you did enjoy this one. You don't have to watch them if you don't want to, but if you did like this video, you're probably going to like these ones too. And then tell us what you think after watching in the comments down below.